Okay, for taping the corners now, I normally use ready-mix filler compound for corners, but I had a little bit of Drywall left over from doing the flats, and it's I just watered it out a little bit more, made it a little bit thinner. For taping corners and stuff, I like the filler to be a little bit wetter because you don't want to leave too much underneath the tape. Thin skim, make sure the drywall, everything's covered evenly. Put your tape up there. I just use the edge of my knife and seed it, just lightly seed it, make sure it goes straight down the corner. Snag the bottom, home, cut. Now the first couple passes, you can do it nice. Just a nice smooth. You don't want to go too hard and pull the tape. You don't want to pull the tape or stretch the tape because it's not really seated yet. Sometimes I used to do the whole row if they're close together, but where they're farther apart, the only thing you have to fill is right around the screw head. So you don't need to come out with a great big 5-6 inch swat on the first pass. So I mean, the perfect scenario would be to do the first coat with a 3 inch, second coat with a 4 inch, and then the third coat with like a 5 inch knife. The idea is to try and cover the surface each time. So a 2, 3, and a 4 would work. This as long as you cover the surface each time. Right today, I think I got a 3 inch knife here. We'll give the first coat with a 3. I like to put it on one way a little bit and then turn my knife 90 degrees and wipe the other way. On, turn 90. On, turn 90. And every once in a while you got to put your mud back in your pan and give it a little whirl, because when you're doing nails you're scraping the surface of the gyprock and picking up dust. So here's the screw head, and you can see a little bit of the screw, and it didn't make a ridge, didn't make an edge, so it's probably okay, but just to play it safe, it might rust over time. Once you get the paint on top, a lot of times you'll see a little dab of rust on your surface, and what it is, it's a screw head just underneath the surface. So I'll just put the Phillips screw in there. Give it a couple turns. There we go. Now that's a 3 inch knife. On the next coat, we'll do it with a 4 inch knife and cover that surface. And then on the finish coat, a little bit thinner. On the last coat, I always thin the mud down just a little bit more. And then you try and cover the whole thing, kind of like 2 half moons. And it gives you a really nice, smooth surface that takes very little sanding. So on the final coat, we'll probably use a 5 inch with a nice thin filler. Just give it a nice, really nice smooth finish. Take very little sanding. So that's the pre-bonding on the flatbeds. Give the coat on the nails. The second coat, I use a 12 inch curved trowel on the recessed flats, I call it, because you don't have to go too wide. This is the factory surface here. This is perfectly flat to each other, as long as your wall's flat. So the only thing you need to really cover is here, the 6 inches that I did with my 6-inch knife here. So a 12-inch curved trowel is going to give me a nice band over top of this. And the idea, the principles behind a curved trowel is it's curved outwards, so when you rake it, it leaves just a little bit more filler in the center, because regular filler will shrink a little bit. So the idea is you leave a little extra on the center over top of the tape. When it dries, it shrinks almost flat. Then on the finish coat, I use a 14-inch flat trowel on flats, and I thin it down just a little bit more so it's really nice and creamy, almost like a mayonnaise. I pre-bed and I first coat trowel with my filler consistent with like a peanut butter. You want it to, it's thicker, so you got a deeper area to fill, so you want a little bit more body and thickness to it. But when you start to do your troweling and finish troweling, you're only doing a skim coat, and you want it nice and smooth, so it's more like a consistency of a mayonnaise, unlike the peanut butter style for the. So a little bit of tips there, even for taping in the corners. The consistency should be a little bit thinner, because here you're trying to put the mud on top. With tape, the mud is only holding the tape in place. You don't want to leave a bunch of mud in behind your tape. You just want the filler to hold the tape in place. So you don't want it too thick, because then it's really hard to smooth out. But you don't want it running off your trowel or out of your pan either. So you have to get used to the consistency that you need.